So our guest author tonight is D. August Baertlein. Baertlein? That's not quite right. Anyway, she was quite sure she'd grow up to be a marine ecologist. She didn't. A multitude of interests drove her to transfer to genetics for her doctorate, though she never lost a love for the sea. Perhaps she hoped to clone herself into enough copies to do everything blooming in her heart. When the self-cloning thing didn't work out, she took to computer programming to pay the bills. Now she wanders the high chaparral and lets her imagination run wild. Her latest flights of fancy led to the Selkie Chronicles. This series so far includes the novel Ara's Song and a book of short stories called Ara's Prelude, both based loosely on the Selkie myths of the North Atlantic Ocean. Synapse, a brain research thriller, was her first novel. She also has various short stories, poems, and essays published for Best Short Stories, Best New Short Stories, Best Poems, and the SCBW, the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, that's much better, Bulletin, and the Mothers at Home Journal. She occasionally blogs at www.daugustbaertlein.com and drifts around social media under that same name. So with that, let's give Dee a very warm welcome.
Right, thank you. They pronounce, depending on which branch of the family it is, they pronounce Baertlein, 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 so anything you say is fine.
And can people hear? Are we good? After last week,
am I okay?
Make sure ahead of time.
All right. So she already told you that I thought I was going to be a marine biologist, and then things changed. So that's where the whole Selkie idea came from. I still love the ocean. I still want to go back. I've been to Galapagos and swum with the sea lions and fringe Polynesia and kayaked with the seals in Alaska and Iceland, and I just love the ocean. So does everybody know what a Selkie is? No, most people don't. So Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Iceland, they have this myth about the people who are seal people, and they haul out on land when they feel like it and take off their seal skins and dance in the sand, and they're just so beautiful, so attractive that humans can't resist them. So the basic Selkie myth is that these girls, these seal girls, come up ashore, take off their seal skins and dance, and a fisherman is watching, and he cannot resist. He wants one of these girls. So he steals her seal skin, and she can't go back to the ocean. She can't go home. He takes the skin and locks it in a trunk, and she can't go home. And the rest of it is out on the internet. You can find the rest, but she becomes his wife. So these Selkie stories are based on that myth, but they're current. They take place in current time, and it's not quite the same. There's other twists and stories. This statue here is actually from Faroe Islands. About 2012, they erected this statue on the ocean shore there, and there are pictures on YouTube of the storm coming and just washing over her, and she's standing there looking so beautiful, and she's got her seal skin. So that's where that came from. You already told my whole history, so I don't think I need to tell you any more of that. I am going to read from the middle here, and let's see. The ocean in this story is not doing very well. There's climate change and pollution and everything, so it's pretty barren, and the seals are are sick and hungry, and this girl climbs out to warm herself in the sun, and Seamus, the fisherman, comes along and thinks he'll rescue this poor girl who's stranded on a rock out from land, and he's going to rescue her. So here in the middle, he and this girl, this new girl who doesn't speak English and who's very strange, they have just brought in a big catch from the ocean, and nobody has been able to catch fish lately, so it's kind of a surprise. And This takes place in the market where they're selling the fish, and it's from the point of view of the woman who runs the market, who's kind of an interesting person, I think, herself. So here we go. When the tiny ship's bell on the market front door jangled, I didn't look up, which wasn't surprising. The damn thing had been ringing non-stop since word spread of Seamus's enormous catch. I'd have broken my neck if I looked up every time. After nothing but empty nets for so long, the wealth of herring was cause for celebration and jealousy. So, no, I didn't look up when the bell rang, and I didn't look up when a shadow fell over the accounting book where I logged the pluses and minuses of everyone's tab. In fact, at the sound of a throat clearing, I raised my hand for silence, trying desperately to maintain my train of thought. It doesn't usually take so long for me to catch the whiff of death, but in my defense, I wasn't generally so distracted. A lot of strangeness was going on just then. Besides the deluge of miracle fish harvested from a dying sea, there was that girl Seamus claimed to have rescued. Miara, he said her name was. She was skulking around the shop, still coated in fish slime from cleaning the fish, touching every item as though she'd never seen it before, fondling a turnip, running fingers through the rice, holding a produce bag to her face to peer at everything through a lens of wrinkled plastic. Now she held one of the little pots of live basil at eye level. Not so live anymore, it looked like. When was the last time I'd watered those herbs? And what could she possibly find so intriguing about a dying plant? I'd need to take them out to the bin before they began to stink. Seamus had convinced himself the young woman was a lone survivor of some horrible shipwreck, and that was how she'd ended up on that barren lump of stone a kilometer offshore. Naked, I was guessing, or nearly so, since she wore only what he'd bought her right here in my store. I was doubtful of the shipwreck theory. On top of my instincts, I had the internet. Slow as snails, but a connection with the outside world all the same. I checked the maritime accident reports, none around here for years. I'd searched the missing persons database for mention of our northern seas. Nothing. Shipping lines didn't pass this way, and no crews would bother with the yawnsome likes of us. No, that girl was no shipwreck victim. So how'd she get out there on that rock? Stealth stone, the locals called it, for the way it disappeared under high tides. Anyone abandoned there would slowly, tortuously sink beneath the waves. Did someone leave her there on purpose? It wouldn't be the first time. I was drawn to that rock myself once, a long time ago, called, really, by a dying woman, her voice crying out inside my head, waking me from a deep and dreamless sleep. How young I was. Only 16 the night my life took a sudden fishhook turn. So idealistic. How did that work out for you? Said a mocking voice inside my head. Excuse me? Said a louder voice, a real one from across the counter. I looked up from my list of numbers, the numbers I'd not actually seen for some time, lost as I'd been in wool gathering. A scrappy little thing with a long blonde braid and cargo pants looked back. She wasn't regular, must have boated here from Vantivik Harbor on the Big Island. Odd, really. We had nothing here they didn't have more of over there. Odder still was the way Seamus's girl sidled up to sniff her like she was a bouquet of sweet lavender. Sorry to interrupt, the young woman said, trying to ignore Miara's rudeness, but you didn't seem to be all that busy. Her eyes darted to the pin rolling idly in my hand. Are you okay? She asked in her tuneless American accent. I'm fine, I said. But you, I believe, are not. The words came to my mind unbidden, but I've learned to hold my tongue. No one wants to hear death. No one wants to hear of death. No one believes me, anyway. Seamus's girl ran spider fingers lightly up the woman's braid, then lifted it to her nose to sniff. The woman stood very still, watching Miara from the corner of her eye, until Seamus hurried over and pulled the strange girl's hand away. Sorry, he said. She's a bit touched, I finished for Seamus, as Seamus led the girl away. She tried to pull out of his grasp, saying something like, onto. The young woman looked to me for clarification, but all I could do was shrug. She's not from around here, I said. Like you. Oh yes, I started work over at the Marine Animal Rescue Center a while back. She waved her hand out the window toward the ocean, 180 degrees in the wrong direction for Baertlein Harbor. She was clearly a mainlander, used to thinking there's only one way out to sea. I'm Jazz. She stuck out her hand, but I didn't think what to do with it until she'd already pulled it back. Do you have any fish for sale? Apparently Jazz either hadn't noticed the celebratory atmosphere or thought I always did this fine of business. I told her we had a few herring, and she requested 20 kilos, causing the store to go suddenly silent. It's for a couple of sick seals. She paused. She passed her smile around as though she thought this would calm the crowd. She didn't know this crowd. One fisherman snorted. Another hawked up a flimmy wad and spitted on my fresh mopped floor. Seals were competition for these guys. Most of them would happily see all seals die out and leave the fish for men. As though the thought had opened my mind, I began to hear it, the soft, plaintive bark of an ailing seal. And I understood. The impending death I was sensing was not the woman's, but one of her charges. Strange thing, though. Seals must die all the time, but never before had I sensed one of the animals passing. That inhuman cry was not the sort that woke me in the dead of night. On to, the girl called from the corner over by the shovels where Seamus had sequestered her. He tried to shush her, to block her path back to the young woman who fascinated her so, Miss Jazz. I took Jazz by the arm and hurried her to the back room, where I packed 4 boxes of herring on ice. Don't you have fish at Baertlein Harbor, I asked. Sure, some, but we have a toxic algal bloom, she said. Our fish are eating the algae and becoming poisonous themselves. I'm hoping yours are cleaner, healthier for my seals. I led her out the back door, and we loaded the boxes into a handcart. Your boat is at the dock? She nodded. You can leave the cart in the corral down there. We both looked toward the door, almost vibrating with the shouts of that strange girl. You'd best hurry. I gently shoved her toward the ramp. When she was almost out of sight, I shouted, Remember, Baertlein is that way? I pointed backwards over my head, reminding her she must go around the little island to find the bigger one. She looked confused for a second, then laughed and disappeared behind the cliff. I sent up a small prayer for her navigational skills and went into the market storage room, leaving the door wide open for my trash trip with the dead basil plants. Things seemed to have quieted in the market, but when I unlocked the inner door, Mira rushed past me, nearly knocking me over. Hold up, Seamus yelled, but the girl was gone. Seamus, never so graceful on land as he was on a rocking boat, tipped over a case of canned tomatoes, picked himself up, and ran after her. Shaking my head, I grabbed a trash bag and walked back to the basil. But I must have misseen them from across the room, for every plant looked fresh and new. In fact, they wafted a lovely Italian fragrance into the market's fishy melange. There's books back there if you're interested, but there's also a card, just a free card if you'd like to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you.